everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a glamorous devil design. So I've got, and it's also kind of like a minimalist design, so it doesn't have like the whole face or anything. It's just two devil horns right along the cuticle area and then the little devil tail wrapping around the tip, and there's a couple different textures in here which is really cool. The tail actually has some metallic red foil on it, which gives it a really nice sheen and a lot of movement too, especially when it wraps all the way around. So I hope you guys like this as much as I do, and if you want to see a more evil version of a devil, Helen has a very creepy looking devil that's definitely the face, so check her video out too, and I'll see you next time. Bye! I'm going to begin with an overlay of Cover Pink acrylic. I wanted this nail to, like I said, to have kind of a minimalist effect and just look very sleek and somehow elegant even though it's a devil. So I've got that layer of Cover Pink, and let's face it, nude nails always seem to kind of embody the word elegant. At least, I mean, there's other colors, but it's the first thing I always think of. So then I'm going to file the nail into shape with my E-file. Make sure it is nice and strong and smooth and flying off of my little holder thing. That too. So now in a nail form backing, I'm going to begin sculpting my tail with red acrylic. So the first piece, I did this in two pieces as you can see. So the first piece, the one that's there, is the actual long part of the tail that's going to wrap around the nail. And so just kind of pull that out into a long tapered shape, just like so. And then the second piece on that other side is going to be the little pointy end of the tail. So I'm going to actually scrap the one that I just made and redo it because it just wasn't quite the shape I was hoping for. So now that that first piece of tail that I was working on is, you know, the right texture, I'm going to pick it up actually with my fingers and manipulate it. I'm wearing gloves, so it's safe to do so. And just wrap it around the tail, and then I'm going to go back to that little point and I'm going to re-sculpt it because it's going to look so much better now than that first one. Just, you know, if you're ever not happy with something and you're working on it, scrap it and start over instead of, you know, getting it to the point where it's already on the nail and then going back to it. So I'm going to just cut that little end so that it's not quite so, you know, it doesn't hang off so much, and then secure that tail to the nail with some clear acrylic. Don't use red or Cover Pink to secure it because you'll end up kind of ruining your really nice sharp lines. But if you use clear, it just blends in nicely. Attach the tail or the tip of the tail to the end of the tail, however you want to say that, the pointy part to the end of the tail. Secure that, kind of blend that together with red if you need to, if it isn't, you know, like a perfect little attachment. And then once again, back to your nail form backing, we're going to be sculpting the horns with some black acrylic. So my horns, even though in the beginning of the video you may not have really noticed this, but they have a black core to them. So the first section of horn is actually going to be done just with solid black. So I'm going to be sculpting those, trying to, you know, look back and forth as many times as I need to make sure that they are symmetrical, or at least as close to the same size as I can comfortably get them. If they aren't perfect, that's not a huge deal. You know, whenever you're making something that is art, don't over stress on having it be perfect because, you know, we're human. And even if you measure something 1,000 times, there's still going to be slight variances in it. So, you know, accept that as part of the beauty of a homemade object. So I'm going to glue those two little horns onto the cuticle area of the nail and then add a lot more roundness and thickness to them with some black acrylic. So when you're sculpting something on a nail form backing, it likes to really, the acrylic spreads out very quickly because it's such a slippery surface that the acrylic just can kind of like flatten out right away. And so you don't always get a lot of height on what you're sculpting and a lot of thickness. So just add a second layer to it and then that is good to go. So now I'm going to kind of clean up the shape of them a little bit with a very narrow bit, like an under the nail cleaner bit, and my E-file. Just smooth out some of the shapes, especially right in the inside area there where I was working on it, and smooth that down so it's not such a weird transition from nail to horn. And then apply a fairly thin layer of the red acrylic around each horn, 360 degrees all the way around the horn. Try to get it done in one bead. Obviously that might not happen, mine didn't, and if you need to, add a second one to fill in any areas that were missed. And then really quickly before the acrylic sets, take a little dotting tool and start carving in and like indenting and pulling acrylic away to create a spiraled pattern around the horns. So do that on the first one. And if you have never done something like this and you want to practice first, you might want to make a third horn before you say do this on a client to kind of get the idea of how this little indentation works, because you have to work so fast that you don't have much time to really think about it and do it cautiously before the acrylic sets up. So you don't have that wiggle room to kind of find it and figure it out as you go. So if it's, you know, something you're a little worried about, either practice one of these ahead of time or just make a third horn that isn't on your client before you do this so that you get a better grasp of it. So I'm going to repeat for the other side, kind of pulling that acrylic away with my dotting tool. Have a paper towel next to you to clean off the top of the dotting tool so there's not so much just acrylic buildup on it. And now I'm going to apply a very thin layer of some gel foil, or some foil gel, onto my tail. So just brush it right onto the surface of the tail that's up. So don't worry about like wrapping that gel all the way around the sides or anything. It doesn't matter as long as it just is mostly covered. And then press some really shiny metallic red foil onto the tail, and you can kind of press and get it around as much of the sides as you can. The one I'm using has a slight pattern to it, but it really doesn't matter if it has a pattern or not because you can't really see much of the pattern in the end anyway. But just adding this foil really gives the tail a little bit more of a, just kind of a movement, and it makes it look just so alive, almost like it's on fire and it's glowing. And then I'm going to highlight my horns just on some of those ridges with a little bit of red paint, blending it out slightly so it's not like a huge bright red spot, but just kind of give it a little bit more of a highlight. It's subtle, and that part you can actually really skip if you don't want to take the time to bother with that. And then I'm going to apply some gel sealer over the background, so everything that's that cover pink color around the horns and then around the sections of tail. Cure it, and then after that's cured, I'm going to apply some matte gel top coat over my tail. So because I did have that gel glue for the foil, I'm going to use gel matte top coat. Normally for matte top coat on stuff like this, I just use regular lacquer, which is what I'm going to use on the horns because it doesn't fill in the 3D details as much. It just kind of dries and leaves all of your detail right as it was. So that's it. I hope you guys love this design as much as I do. It's one of my favorite devil designs I've ever seen, actually. It just looks so sleek. Please share any recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to see them, and I will see you next time. Bye!